Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video of me. I'm in my basement right now, and you could say it is officially turning into a video studio, if you will. I've got my desk set up, I have the lights going on, everything, got a nice overhead light. And this video is going to be about one of my favorite activities at the moment, which is photo editing. But the twist is we're not going to be looking at photo editing like what you would expect, like editing in Lightroom on the PC or on a Mac. We're going to be looking at photo editing only on your smartphone. I've started taking pictures on the phone and edit them on the phone directly, and I started to notice that the possibilities are quite powerful nowadays with all the technology at hand. So last week an Instagram account called the Concert Photographer posted a photo of a shot he took of Marilyn Manson at a concert, and he asked if anyone would be interested in editing his shot. So he sent me the raw file and I started editing right away on my phone, on my smartphone, because I was on the go and I didn't have a laptop or a desktop at hand. And right before I started, I thought to myself, why not make a video about my smartphone editing process? And I think the most beneficial way to do this is just to watch back the recordings on my phone and comment them as we go. Okay, but before we start, let's take a look at the raw file. This is the file from the Instagram account, the Concert Photographer. It's a quite big shot, the resolution is quite high, everything is sharp and in focus, but there are a few elements I don't like. For example, mix stand in the background. I don't necessarily like the colors, they are just too bright for my taste. And we'll just see how it goes. Alright, so let's find the recordings over here. Last one, where is it? Here we go. Alright, and play. Okay, so the first thing after importing is I adjust the brightness and adjust the general exposure, playing around with the curve, zooming in. You see, I just want to make sure I get the shadows and highlights how I want them, and it's just a classic S curve, if you want, like the classic S tone curve you see nowadays in many photos. Playing around with the highlights and the shadows. Also, I do have to apologize. I'm German speaking, so my Lightroom settings are set to German. So if you don't understand or can't read anything you see, it's because I use the German version. Sorry. Moving along. Alright, so I think I'm pretty happy with the overall exposure, and I've set my highlights and shadows accordingly. Now I'm just fiddling around with my whites and blacks to get a nice rich black and a more contrasty feel. Okay, so what we see here is I'm using a selective mask, and I'm just putting it over Mr. Manson himself, and I just want him to be the focus of the picture, so he needs to be set apart more from the background, and I want to adjust the brightness more and make his coat and himself a bit more brighter and more detailed. And I'll do that by applying the layer and just lifting the shadows, basically. Just rechecking my settings. If everything's fine, I think I'm okay. Looking pretty good so far. Right, moving along, not to color, but to geometry. I think the photo is a bit like the typical, it's the typical perspective you get if you're in the photo pit. So I try to counter that by manipulating the geometry and scale it accordingly until I'm happy. You see the white corners on the outer edges, that's why I need to rescale and recrop. And I just cropped to, I think 4x5 it is, yes, 4x5, so it's the classic Instagram crop. So right now you can see I'm trying to align the podium you see in the background with the grid and make it more horizontally and vertically aligned. Okay, so moving to color, you see I just checked really quick if black and white would work. I think it would, but it's just didn't seem appropriate. So I'm playing around with colors. Mainly I am looking for the warm tones, and I'm starting to desaturate them, all of them. I don't especially like the blues, I don't like the purples, and I'm just playing around with the saturation and in which general color direction I want to go. So I do like desaturated colors, I do like desaturated pictures. And you see, one technique I use is I desaturate the reds and I lift the luminance, so they get not more desaturated, but they appear more white. So it's still a bit too much yellow, I think. That's why I'm playing around with the luminance. And you can see over here I'm picking with the color picker the yellow, and I'm adjusting accordingly. And I'm just trying to desaturate the yellows, and this is looking quite fine. And now I think I've gone a bit too far, and I think I've over desaturated it, if that's a thing. And so I'm slowly bringing back a bit of the saturation and adjusting the temperature. I'm making it a bit warmer, so you have more of like the warm orange red tones. Too much would be overkill. I take back a bit of the dynamic and of the saturation of the overall picture, and then I move to the effects. I use a bit of dehaze, a bit of clarity and texture, because I really like the skin texture and the texture of his coat. And you can really see it's a very nice high resolution image, like even at that zoomed in level you can really see the details. So now to split toning, I do choose some yellowish, orangish tone for the highlights, and I do like my blacks and shadows more blue. Adding a bit of a vignette to it, and I'm redoing some color work. I'm not happy, and just making sure every color I do not like is desaturated or not shown. Alright, I'll just bring back the saturation of the reds and the oranges a bit back. And I don't like the top portion, like the lights you can see over there. It's just a bit too bright for me, so I do mask the top portion and make it a bit darker. Alright, and that's it. I'm pretty happy with the color grade. Not so happy with the crop, and also not so happy, still not happy with the mic stand. So that was my first app I've used. Overall it took me about 8 minutes to achieve this kind of edit. And after I'm finished in Lightroom, I'm going to export the photo and import it into an app called Lens Distortion. For those of you who don't know Lens Distortions, you should definitely check it out. It's an app which is for free, and you can add light hits or smoke or rain or some overlay effects, which are pretty good on top of your pictures. The app by itself is free. You get a ton of free overlays, and if you want, they do have a subscription-based model in which you get like 400 more presets, overlays, whatever. But I use the free app. I'm not willing to pay yet. So after importing the photo into Lens Distortions, I'm just playing around with light hits. Maybe put a light hit directly over one of the lights above him. Have a bit of a lens flare there going on, but I'm not that happy. But I do like the lens flare over his horns. So I'm just switching through, looking at what I have, if there's anything, trying out shimmer, which doesn't work at all. It's just too much. It would be too much, too over the top. Here we have some smoke going on. I'm just I'm just using some smoke overlay and trying to find a nice angle and readjusting the layer. And I'm pretty happy with that, and I'm just playing around with the different settings lens distortion gives me. The overall goal is to make the smoke fit into the image seamlessly. And you can see the smoke over there, it's a nice little U shape which nicely covers and spins around his body. But I do like some off-camera light hits which do brighten the overall image a bit. I do like this. It's a bit too much right now, but I think it's okay for the moment. So, and after I'm finished, I'm going to export this. And there's one thing left, which is this annoying microphone stand. And that's where the app Retouch comes into play. It's the smartphone version of the Photoshop content aware fill, I would say. And here we are. So all we do is to click on remove object on the bottom left corner, and we can just paint over the picture, which I do right now. And after that we just hit go, and boom, mic stand gone. Easy as that. The great thing is you do get a little zoom magnifying glass where you are, so you can really dial in those selections. We do export this one as well, and we do a re-import into Lightroom because I wasn't as happy with the crop as I mentioned earlier. So that's why I re-cropped the photo, and this is what it now looks like. This is my final image. Everything is done on my smartphone, and I'm just blown away by the capabilities of our phones nowadays. Having this technology is so awesome for me. I can take high-res pictures with my DSLR. I can send them to my phone via Wi-Fi and edit them on the spot. For example, if I do a concert show and shoot some bands, I can go to my car between the sets, select maybe the best 2 to 3 pictures of that set, load them via Wi-Fi on my phone, edit them, and send them to the band via G Drive or Dropbox or whatever. Can you imagine that? Like having good quality edited pictures for social media or whatever 15 minutes after you took them. Like, that's awesome. I think that's brilliant and awesome, and I'm a huge fan, and I will continue to use my smartphone as an ad hoc editing station. Also, this comes in really handy if you have like a long commute to work, and if you just want to practice editing, you just have everything you need in your pocket. So here are both pictures, raw and edited, compared to each other. I think it turned out really well, and I got so inspired by this that I decided to host my own Do You Like to Edit My Pictures. If you do follow me on Instagram, you've probably already seen it. I did a post in which I've announced that anybody who wants to can shoot me a direct message, and I will send them the link to the raw file. I think it's a great way to collaborate and to learn from each other, and just building a community, because we're all in this together, and I think everyone can learn from it. So if you're interested in editing one of my shots, just go over to Instagram, send me a direct message, and I'll provide you with the link to the raw file, and you can just have a go at yourself. I had a ton of fun editing this video, and now rewatching my editing process also helped me understand more about the choices I've made and rethink certain things. I would love to hear your opinion about editing on a smartphone. Tell me in the comments down below, and I'll be happy to start a conversation. Also, if you did like this video, please let me know, and if you did not, don't. No, I'm just kidding. If you didn't like anything about this video, please let me know. Or if you're not that eloquently gifted, you can either leave a thumbs up or thumbs down. If you would like to see more photo related content, consider subscribing to this channel or my Instagram account. I do post regularly on there. I hope you had as much fun watching as I had editing the photo, and I will see you in the next video. Don't have anything to cover the lens, so lens cap there. See you!